The Sixers didn't have any of their stars, but Brooklyn did, and it still didn't matter. The Sacramento Kings win 7 games in a row despite really trying super, super hard to not win in Memphis. And is there a place that you could walk into that will boo you as lustily as Ben Simmons got booed? It's our real or fake, and it's all right now on the Locked On NBA podcast.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On NBA podcast, Wednesday edition. And Jake, me in separate places.
A little bit different than last week where we saw each other quite a lot, actually recorded a show in person, which was pretty fun to be able to do. Have you recovered from New Orleans yet?
No, I have not. 4 days in New Orleans, and it's going to take me about a week to finally feel rested after, let's call them shenanigans. Hey, we're your regular Wednesday hosts. I'm John Karalis, host of the Locked On Celtics podcast. Find me on Twitter at John_Karalis.
And I'm Jake Madison, host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast. You can find me on Twitter. It's at NolaJake.
Yeah, Celtics at Pelicans was fun. Got to hang out with Jake in person, podcast in person. We couldn't find our flow in person because it was so unusual.
I feel more natural here, right? We can play shot. Yeah, don't get near me.
Yeah, right. I think about 1,000 miles of space is the appropriate distance for us to actually podcast effectively.
Yes,
which
definitely.
We
learned that.
I think you're a good person. I would never boo you if you walked into a room.
There's a place that definitely would. Maybe more than one.
Would?
That's for the third segment here.
We'll
Stay and find out.
For the third segment where we talk about booing and the Philly fans, and I just love that Philly atmosphere. Second segment, Kings almost went full Kangz, but they still won 7 in a row. One of the drunkest fourth quarters. Speaking of how we felt in New Orleans all last weekend, this game was slightly more drunk in the fourth quarter than we might have been. Slightly, I think. Okay,
so it's a high bar to clear.
It's a high bar to clear, but it was pretty drunk in the fourth quarter. But let's start in Philly. We'll start and end in Philly, where the Sixers get the win. They get the win despite no James Harden, no Joel Embiid, no Tyrese Maxey, but the Sixers get a 115-106 win over the Brooklyn Nets, who had Ben Simmons, who had Kevin Durant, who had Kyrie Irving. Jake, I don't know. Is this a bigger? Let me ask you this: who has the bigger indictment against them? The Nets 3 stars or the Sixers stars who all sat and watched all of these role players who have struggled for most of the season come out and play great basketball?
That's actually a really good question. I wasn't expecting you to go in that direction with it. It's probably
I told you I had slander.
You really did and you said for both teams when we were prepping the show. I think it's the Nets, right? Like you can't lose to that team. You can't lose to that team, let alone with Ben Simmons making his return too. He just gave those interviews kind of hyping himself up a little bit despite all of the mental hurdles he's gone through and struggles that he's had this past year. And it seemed like this was going to be a massive game for him. You thought maybe his teammates were going to be there ready to go with him. And they showed flashes of it. Right? You see Kyrie Irving and remember how good he works off ball and why we thought maybe Harden and Kevin Durant would work together. And then you also see moments where this team drives you insane and they just don't do anything and they revert to an isolation style, which, they're all really good, doesn't really work. And they were just consistently, it felt like, out hustled by these role players. Like, I'm in love with Basketball Paul now. That dude is awesome watching this game. 19 points for him. I think it's more that, like, you can't lose to a team that doesn't have Harden, Maxey, or Embiid playing. Like, you just cannot do that. You don't see the Warriors beating people when they're resting everyone. The Pelicans just beat them by 45 points. Like, that's how this should have gone.
That's how it should have gone. For sure. That's how it should have gone. But unfortunately for Brooklyn, they continue to, they had some signs of progress with their defense. And then in this one, it just all goes down the toilet. It's just no effort. the Nets have. I almost feel like it's an outdated attitude with the Nets where they just think the 3 stars and will consider Ben Simmons a star for the sake of this
it's like a
discussion.
loose term right now.
I understand exactly. Yes, I agree with you listening, watching on YouTube that it's a loose definition as well. By the way, this show free and available everywhere. If you're just listening in, you haven't figured out that you can get this show everywhere podcasts exist or watch the show on YouTube. But they think, hey, we've got this talent, we've got whatever, we can go out there and we can just win by sheer will, by sheer force of nature. And you can't. You actually, in today's NBA, no matter how much talent you have, you still have to actually play basketball. And that means passing, and that means cutting, and that means defending, and that means just playing together. The Nets are not playing together despite Kyrie Irving being back and shot 10 of 18 shooting, 23 points. Nice night. Kevin Durant, okay, 20 points. Usually you want to get a little more than that. 9 of 14. Ben Simmons checks in with a good night for him. 11 points, 11 assists, 7 rebounds, 3 steals, 3 blocks. That's a beautiful night from Ben Simmons. You gotta step up. You gotta go out there against a team like Philly without their stars and understand that all of these guys on the Sixers, all of these role players have something to prove because they've been denigrated all season long so far because the Sixers have struggled. These guys have generally struggled, and they have been taking a brunt. The Celtics role players have been taking a brunt of the criticism, I think. And coming out here, they had something to prove, and they proved it.
Yeah, it's why you just can't take any game for granted anymore in the NBA, right? There's more talent in the league than we've probably ever seen. We're talking about expanding the league rather than contracting it, which was a conversation about like 8 years ago even, because these guys are good and there's enough to fill out 2 more teams. So even some of these role players who are hungry for minutes and in larger roles and to prove they belong in the NBA and future contracts, when they get these opportunities, they try and take them. I've seen it with like guys like Jonathan Kuminga. Wiseman was not able for the Warriors to reach that level. But even when you're supposed to beat a team, and that's the mark of a good team, right? Beating teams that you should, those games can still be tough. And you certainly saw that in this one with the role players stepping up for Philly. Like, this shouldn't necessarily surprise anyone that those guys played hard and played well. If you're the Nets, this is a shot to your ego. This is a huge blow and something that you need to kind of look in the mirror and decide like who you want to be because those guys are going to play hard. Yeah, but you're better than them. And if you play hard too, you'd win this game. And it's kind of as simple as that.
Yeah. But they're not going to look in the mirror because
no, not at all.
If the Brooklyn Nets have not looked in the mirror by now, then they're not gonna. You know who should look in the mirror? Joel Embiid and James Harden. That's who I think should look in the mirror. Because those 2 guys, for all the talent that they have, for all of the greatness and Hall of Fame greatness that they have, I think that they still, with this team, like I said, these role players are good. The moves that the Philly 76ers made are good. The moves to get this bench together are good. These are good players. It's on Embiid and it's on Harden to play a style of basketball that's less about we're going to dominate and let's see if these other guys can fill in the gaps. Get those other guys going. Be better about getting your teammates going and then be yourselves later. You need to get DeAnthony Melton going because look what he's capable of. 22 points on 7-16 shooting. Let's get Shake Milton. He has these spots of great play from time to time. Every season we have the Shake Milton kind of stretch. He was great. Tobias Harris.
That was a good get-right game for him. He needed a performance like that, really. Though he's been playing a little bit better.
And then Doc Rivers needs to get the message about Paul Reed, which I know everybody in Philly has been clamoring for. They have it. They have the formula. And I was picking Philly as a real contender in the East coming into this season. It's on Embiid. It's on James Harden. And then it's on Doc Rivers to get the lineups right. But it's on those stars to play a style that's not as ISO focused, that's not on them as much. Get these other guys going, because when they're going alongside you, Philly can be extraordinarily tough to beat. So
yeah, look, no, it's a good point. You see that there's talent there, and they should be better than they are, and that's why we've looked at Philly as a disappointing team. But Brooklyn, oh my God, slap in the face or something like that. Seriously.
Yes. The Brooklyn Nets now are, let's see, what's their record? 8-10.
They are 8-10.
8-10. The Philadelphia 76ers are 9-8. You know who has 10 wins now? The Sacramento Kings. Ladies and gentlemen, your hottest team in the league. The hottest team in the league. 7 wins in a row. Oh, but it was not pretty. We're going to go to Memphis for that fourth quarter when we come back. First, today's show is brought to you by Turo, the world's largest car sharing marketplace. With Turo, T-U-R-O, you can book any car you want wherever you want it from a community of local hosts. Browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the United States, the UK, Canada, and soon, Australia. Book a spacious SUV or a minivan for a family road trip. Get a classic or luxury car for a special event, birthday, or holiday. Find affordable economy cars if you're on a budget and you want to get from point A to point B. You can test drive new electric cars if you've got your eye on one of those and to see how it fits into your life. Many Turo hosts can deliver their car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Forget boring rental cars and find your drive at Turo.com. And we do appreciate you making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Make Locked On Sports your second listen. Once you're done with this show, find that show here wherever you get your podcast. Find it on YouTube. All the games that matter from around the world of sports in a very easy to digest 20 plus minutes. And you're going to sound smart around the water cooler. You want to sound smart? Locked On Sports Today is the way to do it. Jake, the Sacramento Kings.
I loved this game, by the way. They
tried so hard to lose this game. They tried everything that they could, but they held on 113 to 109. They were outscored in the fourth quarter, 33-25. They turned the ball over in the fourth quarter. I forget, 8 times in the fourth quarter. They really did everything that they could to lose this game. It's just that Memphis made a few too many mistakes. Ja Morant got fouled with a second to go and down 3, and he missed the first free throw.
The first one. Would you be surprised if I told you that the Memphis Grizzlies, by the way, are 30th in free throw percentage in the NBA this season?
Saw that on full display in this game.
Yeah.
They were 19 of 30 from the line in this one for 63%. When you lose this game the way you did, that right there is a killer. But hey, look, Sacramento Kings, man. Kings are on a roll. The best offense in the league. They are rolling defensively. Okay. Well, we'll work on that.
They don't worry about that. Not when you have the best offense like in the last 30 years or something like that, which is what they've been running. This is their longest winning streak since November of 2004. I was 18 at the time. No place would boo me just yet, being this young, innocent child that I was.
Oh, please. Please, Jake. Come on.
Just good for them, man. Like, I was actually really rooting for the Kings in this one. I did not want to see the Kangz come out here yet. And for a little bit, it looked like they've just been staring too long into that beam light that they have on top of their arena and really trying to lose this one. They just got out of sync, right? Like, their offense works because you have a great slasher that's also shooting much better in De'Aaron Fox. Yeah. And when you try and collapse on him down low, he can kick it out to guys like Malik Monk and others who can shoot shoot really well right now. And then you just have like a dribble handoff extraordinaire in Sabonis out on the perimeter that just frees up space for those guys. Like, they don't take long twos or really anything from mid-range, and then you saw them having to settle for mid-range jumpers in the fourth quarter in this one and turning the ball over, and they just like did not look like themselves. But it's a sign of a team that just hangs on to get the win, right? Like, I think that's the sign of a team that's growing, because in years past, they lose this game, it would have been Ja either getting fouled and making all three of those free throws, and then they turn it over, and somehow Memphis like throws it into the basket on the ensuing inbound, and we avoid overtime altogether. But to the fact that they kind of gutted this out, like, maybe this team truly isn't the Kings of old.
I think there are a couple of elements that make them better than that, right? Like, the fourth quarter, honestly, I'm not kidding. This is not hyperbole. They really did turn into the Kangz. They really did.
Yeah, they did.
They fully went, south. They got away from everything that worked. Honestly, I kind of think this is the best of both worlds for a team like the Sacramento, where Mike Brown can go into the film session and be like, okay, here we go. Let's look at all the crazy things that you did wrong, but you still came out of it with a win. So there's that element of a fourth quarter that was a complete disaster that you can build on. You come out of it with a win, so you can kind of laugh about it a little bit. So that's good. But the elements that really have changed this Kings team, I think Sabonis and his ability to pass, right?
Yes.
He comes in with 9 points, but 8 assists, 13 rebounds. The 8 assists, his running offense through a guy like Sabonis takes pressure off of so many of these other guys, takes pressure off of De'Aaron Fox, takes pressure off of your slashers. And then when you add a shooter like Kevin Huerter, who was 4 of 7 from 3, so that should push him back over 50% for the season, or right about 50% from 3 for the season. So you get that level of shooting, which we know is unsustainable. He's not going to shoot 50% for the season, but with the level of passing, the level of offense and passing and cutting, you're going to generate open shots. So Herter's going to get good looks. A regression to the mean for him this season might be 43 or 44%. So
yeah,
that's
it really might.
Out of the question, right? That level of shooting is still possible. And you still have Mr. Steady Hand, Harrison Barnes, who comes in, and when the Grizzlies make some really bad mistakes and foul late in the fourth quarter, he's there to hit 4 free throws in the fourth, go 8 of 8 from the line to show you the importance of free throws. And they've got like that steadiness. They've got a star in De'Aaron Fox. They've got shooting. They've got a great passing big. Those elements there are the types of thing. The guy who can knock down the run stopping shot, the guy who can run an offense that doesn't have to be your main guy, and you can give De'Aaron Fox a break. Those are elements that really help you persevere and get through tough times. Not this fourth quarter necessarily in particular, because that was a little bit of something different, but in most tough times, that type of stuff, it makes the Sacramento Kings better than they've been in the past, those elements. And I think that makes the Sacramento Kings somewhat dangerous, or at least the thing that they've been hoping to be for so long, potential playoff team.
Yeah, like their offense looks pretty sustainable to me I've really started watching them, because they're really, really fun. They play fast. Like, they want to get out and run. They want to score. As you said, De'Aaron Fox looks like a dude who's been reborn this year, right? He's shooting well. He's got that aggression back that you want to see from him. He's got quality teammates around him. There's just like not a lot of fat on this offense at all, I don't think, right? Like, they look pretty lean, and it's something that they can really keep going with them. And I think that's going to really propel them throughout the season. Defense is going to be their undoing at times. They're going to lose some games because they are atrocious defensively. But when you also are the Sacramento Kings, who cares about that right now? Just kind of enjoy this a little bit, I think. Like, they're this kind of happy-go-lucky team that almost feels like they're playing with house money because of how bad they've been for so long. And also credit to Mike Brown, right, who's kind of reinvented himself as a head coach too. Like, this is not the style of basketball that he's known for. before. He's a slow-paced coach that wants you to win by playing defense. That's really what he was known for in Cleveland, and we don't need to talk about that Lakers stint there. But to really come in and realize his players' strengths and have him playing to that, I think says a lot about him this year. And I wasn't a fan of that hire at all when it was made.
Yeah. Hey, look, man, he's a dude who knows how to at least get the players to get the ball in the hole, right? He's been around great offenses his whole career. So yeah, it's look, man, Kings are fun. Now here, I am excited. I know that I don't want to look past the Dallas Mavericks, who are in Boston on Wednesday night. Friday night, Kings, Celtics, the two best offenses in the league. Two teams that put up a ton of 3-pointers, two teams that score a ton of points. The Kings are they're actually both averaging about 120 points per game. The over-under on Celtics Kings on Friday night could be about 300, and I'm not sure if I want to take that 300 combined points from them. High-powered offense. People love the offense, man. This is the year of offense in the NBA.
Oh, I love it. It's so much more fun. No one wants defense. I don't want to watch that.
Yeah,
a little bit, maybe.
A little bit, just enough.
Just enough.
All right, let's take a second here. We'll be back with booing. Philly did what Philly did best. The fans, they booed and booed and booed, and we're gonna figure out who booed Jake. I'm gonna check out BetOnline to see what the combined, if there's an over/under. Whenever there is an over/under, I'm going to be very curious to be what it is. Could be pretty high. BetOnline is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. You can get the latest odds and trends for every professional amateur league out there. Football, basketball, soccer. Soccer's a little bit of a big deal right now. Esports, it's all there at betonline.net. If you love podcasts, here you are 20 minutes into this one. I'm sure you love podcasts. They've got those there as well. It's the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head on over to the website today. You can use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline is where the game starts. Please gamble responsibly. We thank you for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Make your second listen. Just stay right on this feed and get game to game, because you're going to get the whole night in detail from the local host, the local expert. So we didn't get to Detroit and Denver. We didn't get to LA and Phoenix. Game to game got you covered. So check out Locked On Game to Game NBA right here in the Locked On NBA feed. So Jake, this is your idea. We do real or fake every week. We do real or fake in our third segment, and we're like, okay, what's this week's going to be? And you came up with the idea. So yeah, I will turn it over to you. What do you got?
All right. Real or fake? This is in honor of Philly and Ben Simmons booing him, as they should have, I think. Hey, real or fake, sure. John? There's a place that if you walked into it tonight, they'd boo you like Philly booed Ben Simmons. There is a location somewhere on earth with some people in it that would boo you if you walked in there. Real or fake?
Okay.
You're such a nice guy.
I'm going to say fake. I'm sure there are, like, if I walked into a place where there are, I'm sure, a few ex-girlfriends where I would get booed significant, but that's one person. Do we count that? I've got no.
You need it's got to be like 51% of the people in there might boo you at any given time.
I can't think of a place where I would get booed today. Now, in my past, I think there are places where if I went in after a certain amount of time, that I would certainly get booed. Like, I left in college, I left a waiter's job without quitting. And so I'm sure if I went back in there like a month later after that, everybody would boo me, be like, what is that? I never gave my notice, nothing. I just left.
You had a game, right, where you shot terrible from the free throw line? Was that, a home or away game?
That was a home game.
Oh, would the home fans boo you?
No. I think Emerson is such a, sweet place where
would you shoot?
Like, I was 2
Don't act like you trying to remember. This probably keeps you up at night. Yeah,
2 of 12. But in my defense, I didn't push down any ladders after I shot 2 of 12 from the free throw line.
I don't know if you're committed here.
Well, I'm about to boo you. All right, what's your you got a place. You got a place.
Oh, yeah, there's probably more than one, to be honest, but there's definitely one. There's a bar here locally that's like my ex's bar. Not that she owns it, but like that was like her place with her friends, right? And I wouldn't say we ended on like the best terms or anything like that. So I haven't been back there ever since, nor will I, because I feel like if I do walk in, and it's like a local bar, right? Like a neighborhood bar. So it's all the same people that go in there. You're not really getting like tons of just random people popping in for like a good time. It's like you go there, it's like a cheersy kind of bar, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So if I walked in there, 1,000% I am getting booed. And I think that's a natural, right? Like that's probably the appropriate response.
This is the best parallel to Ben Simmons that we could find. That was the home bar. You were there as part of the home bar. You left on not so great terms. They have the other half of the other person in that power duo, like it was you and the girlfriend, right? She's Embiid. You're Ben Simmons. You didn't go well. You left. When you go back, you're going to get booed. I can see the exact parallel.
I really don't want to be Ben Simmons in this analogy, but I am. Yeah, I have to be. I don't like that.
You painted yourself into this corner, buddy. You got to own it.
There's a couple other bars. There's one I've been thrown out of, like literally kicked out of multiple times. And so I'm wondering if I were to walk in there, if like I would get booed, but I don't think it'd be by like the majority of the bars. So I think I'm safe there. I asked this question on Twitter because I was kind of curious, right? Because like Philly should have booed him. That was the appropriate thing to do. That's going to happen for the rest of his career when he goes to Philly. One guy said on Twitter, my ex-wife's parents' house, which if they're booing you, I have some questions, right? Like you're probably getting off light there maybe. Another guy said my old barbershop. I switched up and started going to a new barber. So, all right, that one's fair. And then my favorite answer.
No, sorry, good.
Yeah, you're like, I don't understand these things here. This one guy said, the first time I went to Applebee's in my life, I had a $165 bill, which consisted of one order of mozzarella sticks and $155 of Jameson. So that exact Applebee's might boo me.
I'm sorry.
Someone said
150 of Jameson.
That's like got to be St. Patrick's Day, right? Like it has to be St. Patrick's Day.
I can't imagine that. I mean, that's the cheap stuff. That's not like top shelf stuff.
It's not top shelf. I wouldn't call it like the cheapest, but no, you're right.
Cheapest, but it's not like super expensive. How much? That's
also, shouldn't that Applebee's be cheering you, not booing you?
Yeah, that's like I can name you a bunch of bars that would boo when I leave because I've been spending a ton of like every bar I've been in, like all my regular bars. When I'm like, oh, I'm moving, they're like, oh, boo. Like I probably put like 10 kids through college through like some of the stops that I've been through. But yeah, that Applebee's probably should. Well, okay. If they're booing
Depends
him.
on how he tipped.
I was going to say, if they're booing him after $150 worth of Jameson, which is still like unfathomable, there's more to that story. That story doesn't end with, oh yeah, I bought $150 worth of Jameson in an Applebee's. No, that's the beginning. That's how you start the story. So let me tell you about the time I spent $150 on Jameson at an Applebee's by myself. Oh, okay. So how many police were involved? Like, what?
Like, how long's the restraining order go for here?
Right. Like, exactly. Like, how many people did they need to carry you out? What was the damage bill on top of that? Like, any of those things. There's a reason why you're getting booed. Because you're right. I mean, if you're spending,
you should cheer that. That's a great thing. Like quite the accomplishment there, I think, to, especially if you tipped well, like that's not a ton of work for the Applebee's.
What's a shot of Jameson go for? At that, he said once. I once went.
This is in like the past, right?
Yeah. So like it's not recent. So you can be like $10. So you have 15 shots of. Do you have 15 shots?
There's no way it's $10. There's no way it's $10. I literally just Google. I shouldn't have Googled this. This was a mistake. How much is a shot of Jameson? And the first thing says, how much Jameson to get drunk? So welcome to the kid-friendly Locked On NBA show here. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
All right. Let's just leave it all up to everybody's imagination. And just be thankful that person is still alive to tell the story. Every Wednesday, it's us two, Jamokes. I'm John Karalis. I mean, I say this as I did the last podcast with me and you together with a drink in my hand the whole time.
That's true.
I'm John Karalis, host of the Locked On Celtics podcast. Find me on Twitter at John_Karalis.
I'm Jake Madison, host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast. You can find me on Twitter. It's at Nola Jake.
It's the Wednesday show. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving for you, so happy Thanksgiving if you're celebrating that. We still got Locked On NBA shows. I don't know who's stepping into host tomorrow, so I can't tease exactly who's there. I know Nick's not here, so somebody, maybe with Pat the designer, maybe Pat's. I have no idea what's going on. Everybody's just going to get some Jameson and some turkey, and we're going to have a great old time this week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everybody, and tell everybody that they should be listening to and watching as well. The Locked On NBA podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.